Hey guys, what is up? Well, I got a special little treat for you today because you guys have been requesting this for quite a while. Now you've seen me as I do all these different upgrades and maintenance items. I'm using all kinds of different sealants, lubes, and protectants. And several of you have been saying for the past few months, Martin, can you do an overall view and a review of all of the sealants, protectants, and lubes that you use? And the answer to that is yes. We're going to get into that right now. Details coming up on RV Street. Okay, let's get right to it. In my tool bay, I have one specific bay where I keep all of my tools, my critical spare parts, all of my nuts and bolts and screws and electrical stuff and all that. And I also have this big bin. And this big bin lives on the left side of my toolbox. And in this bin is all of my sealants, lubes, and protectants that I use for different things. So we're going to get into it right now. The first thing that I carry in this tub is a bottle of alcohol. You know, you can get these things here at Walmart or Home Depot or whatever. These here actually came from Walmart. They got a bigger neck on here and they tend to work better. But I'll just simply go to Walgreens or Walmart again and buy a couple bottles of alcohol and I'll fill this up. And I use this to clean surfaces and everything before I have to take a next step to do a different maintenance item. So I carry a bottle of alcohol. The next thing here is the same kind of bottle, but I carry paint thinner. Again, I'm using this sometimes to do my final smooth outs when I'm putting on a certain kind of sealant or something like that, or even sometimes when I'm painting something. I buy a bigger can of thinner like this. I don't buy a big gallon jug, I don't use that much, but then I fill up my little container and I carry some of the paint thinner in this also. Then of course I carry a can of acetone. I carry this so when I really want to clean a surface before I'm getting ready to put down a sealant or whatever I'm doing, I got to make sure that that surface is super clean and etched before I apply that sealant. I'll take this acetone, put a little bit on a rag or maybe a toothbrush and clean that area, and it'll evaporate and it'll make that surface nice and clean and ready to adhere to that sealant. The next thing I have in my tub is another one of these containers with 303. I use 303 on my tires. This is a non-petroleum base coating for your tires. It's like suntan lotion for your tires. It keeps them looking really nice, but it also repels UV rays. And so if we're traveling along and I'm not going to be somewhere for several days where I'd put my tire covers on, I always keep 303 on my tires. And what I do here is I buy it by the gallon so I can save money. And then I pour some in here. I usually keep about a half a bottle, and then I use the same rag over and over that I keep in a plastic bag to do my tires. Now for emergencies, I carry a roll of Eternabond Dicor tape. This is 4-inch tape. When you buy it, it comes in a box just like this, okay? I carry this with me in the event that I ever have like a roof accident or a roof emergency. Let's say we were in a campground, a tree branch fell, cracked something on the roof or whatever, and I need to do an emergency repair right there. I would use this Eternabond tape. And speaking of sealants, I use basically four sealants. You've seen this one before. This is the one that I use to do my roof seams. Right there above the roof gutter. You saw that when I showed you how I completely redid my roof. But I always carry another extra tube in the event that I'm up on the roof and I'm checking out things and I see that I need to do a little repair. This is what I use that for. And while we're talking about the roof, I also carry a tube of Dicor lap sealant. This is the Dove Bright White. This is what I use on my roof. I got a white roof, right? You saw that when I did that video. But even though I did a nice thick bead of new Dicor like 5 years ago, and I've never had a crack, you never know when you're going to have to do maybe a repair for whatever reason. So I carry one tube of this for emergencies. The third kind of sealant that I use is made by GeoCell. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. It's ProFlex RV Clear sealant. Now I use this for a whole sundry different things. I use it for around my bay doors. I use it for up on my gutters, maybe underneath where I need to do something, around windows. I really like this stuff. It's easy to work with and it's clear, and you can do a real nice smooth out. I actually did show you that when I repaired a window. I did a video on how I replaced the sealant up on top of the window, and I was up there cleaning the windows and I saw it starting to crack. I dug all that out and I used this sealant up there for that repair. And this one here, you're probably going to make a lot of fun of me, and I deserve it. You've heard me say many times, I never ever use silicone of any kind on our RV. And that is true, except when I was getting ready to do this video, look what I found. Yep, a tube of silicone. And I'm like, oh, I remember what I used this for. It was when I redid the inside of our shower stall in the back bathroom. So forgive me for saying I never use silicone. Another sealant that I used just recently, you saw how I fixed that crack in my front cap. Well, I used this 3M 5200 Fast Cure. Let's keep moving along here. You know that I've said many times that when I polish our coach, I do a finish coat with what? You remember? Rejects. That's right. I don't use wax anymore. I use rejects. And I also put it on the front windshield and on our windows and stuff like that. However, sometimes I'm running low on rejects and we're getting ready to go on a big long, like right now, we're fixing to head back to Texas. We got a 3,000 mile run in front of us here. And I'm a little low on rejects, but I want to protect my windshield from bugs and if we get caught in rain or whatever. So I carry with me a bottle of Rain-X. Now this stuff works awesome. The only reason I don't like doing it, as you guys know, is it kind of, when you put it on the outside of your windshield, it kind of gives it that smearing look. And I don't like that. But man, it really repels the water and it makes getting bugs off the windshield a snap. So I do carry this as a spare if I'm getting low on rejects. Now let's move on to lubes. The first lube here is T9. I use T9 for things like my hinges on my doors and all of my bay door locks and stuff like that when I need a good lubricant for mechanical things, but it doesn't have to be high heat or it's a rotating mechanical thing or anything like that. So I use this for a general all-purpose lube for that type of stuff. Next up is my chain wax. How many of you remember what I use this for? Yes. That's right. I use this for my Kwikee power steps. I use this for lubricating all the linkage and up underneath on my big sprocket gear and all that type of stuff. I love this stuff. Now Kwikee has their own brand of their step lube, but I've used this stuff before in the past on many other things, and this is what I use. But it doesn't matter. I have both of these in my Amazon store anyway. And I have all this stuff in my Amazon store. Speaking of the steps, you remember how I use brake cleaner. I first clean all those lube joints and all that linkage and that big sprocket gear. I get all that old nasty lube off of there and any dirt and whatever, and I usually use brake clean, right? Well, brake clean, I couldn't find any. So this time I have an electric part cleaner. Now you can use either one. They're really almost exactly the same thing. But I use all this when I'm cleaning all my electrical connections with my brass bristle brush and all that type of thing to get all that corrosion off. I do that once a year. I literally go underneath the entire coach and in the wheel wells on my battery posts and all that. I clean them, I brush them with my brass bristle brush, and then I use my battery post terminal protector on all of it. Which brings me to this. So every year when I clean all those connections, even like my leveling jacks, I got motors underneath there. I've got electrical connections. I got them all up in the engine bay. I got them under the steps with my batteries and all that. After I clean them with my brake cleaner, or in this case, electric part cleaner, both work just fine. I'll come back and I'll protect everything with my battery terminal protector. Moving right along with lubes, this is the next one I use. I use this on my power gear slide mechanisms. I have a rack and pinion system, and so what I'll do about once every 6 months or so, I'll reach in and I'll get that main pinion gear and the rack gear. Now this comes out wet, but it dries, okay? It does not stay wet. This is an excellent lubricant for that type of application. Goes on wet, coats the parts, but then it dries. It doesn't attract dirt and dust and that type of thing. This is the one that I use the most. and it's my silicone dry lubricant. Okay, I use this all the time. When I buy this, I usually buy 2 cans at a time. I keep one in my front bay and I keep one in this bin as a backup. I use this for like these gas struts when I lubricate them on the main awning. I also use this on the chrome cylinders on my leveling jacks. Now this is a practice that I do often. So like when Joni and I are moving along, okay, we'll go someplace, we'll stay there for a week. Before I leave, I throw my cardboard under the motorhome. I'll go in there and I'll give this a quick spray and I'll wipe them down with a paper towel. And you can just see right here how my jacks, these jacks are almost 11 years old and they are like brand new. I never have issues with my leveling jacks. And this keeps any pitting happening on those chrome cylinders and removing all that dirt and dust and stuff so that when they raise, all that dirt isn't going up and possibly damaging the wiper seal that's at the very top. And I use this for a lot of other things too, but that's the 2 main things that I do all the time. Next up, this is my slide out rubber conditioner. I use this once a year. From time to time, I will just use this as I'm walking around and I go, oh, that little rubber seal looks a little dry. I'll spray some of this on, I'll wipe it off with a paper towel. But once a year, when we spend winter down in RGV, down there is when I go through this coach top to bottom, front to back, and I do everything. And what I do there is I lubricate every slide rubber seal. I'll spray it in there, I'll work it with my fingers, I even get up underneath the toppers, and I've shown you how I do this. But I also use it on all of my rubber stuff in the engine bay, okay? I'll go underneath there with my cardboard and I'll spray it on all my radiator hoses, my cooling hoses, all that, because this stuff keeps rubber nice and pliable and keeps it from drying out. Between this 3M silicone dry lube and this slide out seal rubber conditioner, these are the 2 things I probably use the most. How many of you have ever gone and you're fixing to wrench on something, right? And you finally get access to a couple of bolts or maybe one big bolt. And that thing hasn't been touched for months or years. There's corrosion around it and it's rusted. What do you do? Well, the first thing I do is I put some penetrating lube on it. I'll pop this out and I'll spray some penetrating lube on there and I'll let that thing sit sometimes for 2 or 3 hours. And I'll constantly apply some of this penetrating lube and I'll let it get in behind and on those threads so that when I really get up there on that wrench and begin to break that, I don't want that head off that bolt to break. And I want it to be easier for that bolt to come out. So you gotta have penetrating fluid. Moving right along, I carry an extra dielectric grease. Now I have a small little tube that I carry in my bag. So whenever I'm working on anything electrical, I'll coat those tips or those spade connectors or whatever I'm doing. And before I push those together, I will add a little bit of dielectric grease. When you live in an RV, you're always repairing something, right? And sometimes it's a wood thing. Well, I carry a bottle of Gorilla wood glue. Now you know how anal I am about having good tools. I do not buy cheap tools. I just don't do it. Never have. Being a machinist and a millwright for many, many years, I learned buy one set of good tools and you're done with it. And one of the things that I do with that is I bought a good cobalt set of drill bits. Okay, these are very high-end, good drill bits. You're only going to buy these once, and they're especially made for real hard steel. And they have a pilot tip on them. You see that little pilot tip right there? That keeps the drill from walking and wandering off where you're wanting to drill. I love this set of drill bits. But one thing that makes drill bits last is the right kind of lubricant. You've got to put some lube on those drill bits when you are drilling or you're gonna burn those things up. So this is the lube that I use for my drill bits. Remember when I did the video on fixing light rust? Remember that? Well, I still carry an additional can of my Permatex rust treatment because, in fact, it happened the other day. I was under there doing something. I was looking up and I saw a patch, just a small patch of rust just beginning. I thought, you know what? I'm going to take care of that right now. So I went up there and brushed it real quick, cleaned it off with acetone, and gave it a few shots of this. So I carry this in the event that I find something that I have missed in other places. So I always carry a can of this. I have had this can right here of Anasys, I'll bet you for 10 years or more. And I keep it in a plastic bag because once it gets on you, it's hard to get off. But it has a little applicator brush inside, and I use this whenever I remove something, when I remove bolts. Before I put those bolts back, I put just a little bit of anti-seize on those threads, because you never know when you might end up going back to that area 2 or 3 years later and that bolt now is frozen again. For a mechanic or a DIY guy, you've got to have some anti-seize, period. Now going to plumbing, I don't have a lot of plumbing sealants and lubes and stuff, but I do carry this. It's a 3M silicone paste. Some people call it plumber's grease. It also has a applicator brush on the end. And what I use this for is when I'm working with anything with plumbing, like plumbing washers or plumbing seals or plumbing O-rings or anything like that, that I'm going to be applying, I need some lubricant on that rubber or nylon part that's involved in plumbing, because what it does is it keeps it lubricated and soft and keeps it from drying out and cracking. Now, don't ever let anybody talk you into putting Vaseline on something, okay? Yeah, just wipe some Vaseline in there. Well, Vaseline's a petroleum product, and it can actually damage those kind of products over time. So it's best to use a silicone paste or a silicone plumber's grease. And speaking of plumbing, I also carry a little can of plumber's putty. I put the top on, I cover it with foil, and I keep it in a plastic bag so it doesn't dry out. And the last thing that I have in my bin of sealants, protectants, and lubes is a plastic bag of 4/0 steel wool. Just in case some of you out there that doesn't know what 4/0 steel wool is, this is what it looks like. You see that? It's very, very fine. They have 1/0, 2/0, 3/0, and 4/0 steel wool. And the higher the number, the finer the grade. If any of you have like little scratches or things on your windshield that are very hard to get off, take some Windex, spray your windshield, and take some 4/0 steel wool and go over there on your windshield, and it'll take that off, and no, it will not scratch it. So I use 4/0 steel wool for things like that, or possibly metal items that I don't want to use sandpaper or emery cloth or anything abrasive. I need something soft, but with a little bit of Windex or possibly some lube, I can put it on there and then just polish it. It's a very highly refined steel wool. I probably use 4/0 steel wool, some of this stuff, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. I'll run into a situation where I'll need some of this. So that pretty well sums up my protectants, my lubes, and my sealants. I keep them all in that tub. I keep a couple other little smaller items in my bag, like a little bottle of red Loctite and a bottle of blue Loctite. But other than that, this pretty well covers it. For those of you who are new to my channel, if you look right underneath the video where you're watching right now, you'll see RV Street. If you click RV Street, that's going to take you to our main YouTube channel page. And on our homepage, if you look right up here, you'll see the tab that says playlist. If you'll click that playlist tab, it's going to take you to a library where there's a multitude of videos where I've done upgrades and maintenance of all types of things, and I show you step by step how to take care of your RV and save you a ton of money. You guys and gals out there, you can do 80 to 90% of all the maintenance stuff that you need to do to your RV yourself and save money, and I show you how to do it. And just one quick reminder, everything that I've shown you here and everything that I use and that you need is in my Amazon store, and the link to my Amazon store is
down there
in the description text. And when you click our link to go to our Amazon store, I have stuff all divided into different categories to make it really simple for you to find out what you need. But let's just say there's something that you want to buy or it's not in our store. You can still use our link to go to our store and then shop on Amazon like you normally would, put it in the cart and check out. It's a great way to say thank you, Martin. Thank you for taking the time to make these videos and helping the RV community. Anyway, that's it for now, guys, on my lubes, protectants, and sealants. Now go seal something. So until next time, this is RV Street. Stick around.